Not a suspect, at least according to Seattle police. He is a suspect, but one of many, according to King County.
One of 3,000.
Okay, thank you, Robin. The man most of us know as Ted has been seen only in a picture. It's a composite drawing that police created from eyewitness accounts. But police say Ted is a real man, and they have spent the last 15 months trying to track him down. Paul Boyd takes a look at the history of this case.
King County Police launched their investigation after Denise Naslund and Janice Ott vanished from Lake Sammamish State Park in July 1974. At least 7 people at the crowded beach saw and heard a man who called himself Ted. He was described as a smooth-talking man with his arm in a cast who asked several women to help him load a boat onto a Volkswagen. A massive search was launched for Ted, and police were flooded with calls from citizens who said they had seen the suspect. The first break in the case came with the discovery of the skeletal remains of 6 women in the mountains east of Seattle. With the bodies found all in one place, bodies of women who disappeared from places as far away as Corvallis and Seattle, police realized that one man was probably responsible for the deaths of at least 8 women. A special 11-man task force was set up by King County to handle the case, and to date that group has investigated nearly 2,800 possible Ted suspects. King County authorities worked out a deal with the Department of Motor Vehicles that each time a suspect was named, police showed that man's driver's license picture to the Lake Sammamish witnesses. In that fashion, they eliminated thousands of potential suspects. But when it appeared this spring that the investigation had reached a dead end, police admitted that they would only catch Ted if he committed another crime and got caught. Detectives are now hard at work to determine if it was Theodore Bundy who made that mistake. This is Paul Boyd for King News Service.
But through all the excitement of the Salt Lake City arrest, there's one man here in Seattle who's not at all excited. He is Captain Nick Mackey. He headed up the investigation of the local murders from the very beginning. News Service columnist Don McGaffin reports. Don?
Jeannie, the reason Captain Nick Mackey says he's not excited is simple. He says Ted Bundy is not a prime suspect in the murder of the Seattle women. After announcing months ago that he'd hold no more news conferences until his investigators had something definite to announce, he had a news conference today to unannounce Bundy.
Process of investigation now, and we have been for some time. This is why, one of the reasons I called this, it was said in some releases that we looked at it and were not interested. That's not true. Another one said that we have done no follow-up since the arrest in Salt Lake City. This is not a true statement because we're not doing anything different. We've been on him. We've been investigating him as we have many others. I'd like to emphasize that because he is not the one suspect.
Mackey says there is no prime suspect, and the chief detective in the investigation now seems to be the county's computer, a computer with the nickname Ralphie. Ralphie has memorized nearly 2,800 names of suspects. It has memory banked more than 3,500 pieces of information. It cross-matches, re-references, but so far has produced no one worthy of the status prime suspect. And this electronic detective doesn't work for peanuts. It costs so far more than $30,000 for computer runs. Mackey added that the pictures of Ted Bundy so far have produced no results when showed to the witnesses. And he said he has no plans to send any county detectives up to Salt Lake City.
Selling like there's no tomorrow. Topping Toyotas off our showrooms fast. So hurry, don't miss. Clock stopping. Super shopping time at Toyota.
You ask for it, you got it, Toyota.
Convicted Utah kidnapper Theodore Bundy is a suspect in more than a dozen murders and disappearances from California to Florida. But today, Bundy was dropped as a suspect in one Florida case. Dan Smead has spent a great deal of time covering this story in Florida. He brings us up to date on the latest developments. Dan?
Well, Terry, I reported over a week ago that Bundy was a suspect in the disappearance of an 8-year-old Ocala, Florida girl. Well, Teresa Thornley turned a corner on her way home from school, and that was the last time she was seen. She vanished the afternoon of January 23rd. Late yesterday, her body was found in a heavily wooded area near the Ocala airport. Her clothes and school books were nearby. Authorities were told me today that a next-door neighbor has been arrested in connection with the murder. Ocala is 70 miles south of Lake City, Florida, where a 12-year-old girl vanished from her first period class at school on February 9th. Because Bundy is believed to have been in the area at the time, he was a suspect in both disappearances. He is still a suspect in the murders in Tallahassee and the disappearance of a 12-year-old girl in Lake City. The search continued today for Kimberly Leach, and I was told more than 50 state patrolmen are still combing the rugged countryside from Lake City to Tallahassee. Although still optimistic, nothing has been discovered that will lead them to the missing girl. So now, Florida authorities can continue to concentrate on their attention on the Tallahassee and Lake City cases without thinking Bundy may have been involved in 3 separate crimes. Pat.
Thank you, Dan.
That's why I hate you! I know!
It was something only worst nightmares are made of. 17 men brutally murdered at the hands of the serial killing cannibal Jeffrey Dahmer. 3 decades later, there are new questions about Dahmer's link to an 18th victim, a similar calling card left at a crime scene halfway across the country. Less than a year before Dahmer's arrest, police in Los Angeles were investigating the murder of 25-year-old Billy Newton, also known by his stage name Billy London, an actor from Eau Claire. He left a nightclub in West Hollywood Halloween weekend of 1990, his body parts found in a dumpster the next day.
It's truly a mystery.
Now, an LA filmmaker, Rachel Mason, who considers herself an amateur sleuth, is using her movie-making skills to generate tips on the case.
We can't, deny the fact that a person did bring new testimony in Los Angeles, which could really, truly help a cold case.
Mason's working on a documentary about Newton's unsolved murder. She says she discovered the case while working on a Netflix film about her parents' adult bookstore located near where Newton was killed.
His family deserves to know what happened to him.
Did you ever wonder if it was Jeffrey Dahmer?
I did.
Billy's sister, Michelle Oliver, lives here in Milwaukee, living with the mystery of who killed her brother after he left Wisconsin.
This does kind of, match up to his MO, and so it was always in the back of my mind.
Her brother's cold case now heating up.
And I was there the day that Billy left the bar and was never seen again.
Ron Wheeler told 12 News he believes he saw Dahmer leave the club with Newton that night.
The man that I saw that day I recognized as Jeffrey Dahmer.
Despite reporting the sighting to police years ago, a recent podcast reignited his memory.
It's something that really has stayed with me all of these years, that perhaps I should have done more at the time. Perhaps I should have said more at the time.
Now his tip has reopened the investigation.
So when you get a tip like that all these years later, where do you even begin?
Begin by cracking open the old case file.
LAPD homicide detective John Lamberti gave 12 News a look at the piles of documents he's pulled out of the cold case file.
There's 5 giant 3-ring binders full of investigation files, and they ran down every lead.
In those files, Dahmer's mugshot, fingerprints, and a signed letter from a Milwaukee police captain after questioning him about Newton's murder.
Did Jeffrey Dahmer, was that ever a possibility?
The investigating detectives obviously knew about Dahmer's arrest because it was national news. They immediately thought of this murder.
Dahmer denied the California crime.
He was a very careful, clever criminal.
Perhaps no one knows the Dahmer case better than the man who put him away.
Do you think it's possible that Jeffrey Dahmer killed a man in California and got away with it?
It's possible, but I don't think it's highly likely that he killed 16 people in Wisconsin, 1 person in Ohio, but not elsewhere. And when suspicion has arisen about what he may have done elsewhere, that usually falls flat. That's not to say he didn't do it in California.
Detective Lamberti isn't convinced.
I can't just take somebody's denial at face value, and people lie to me all the time.
He says Dahmer's timeline is critical, but difficult to trace.
I've been able to figure out, where he was the week before this murder and the week after this murder, but I haven't been able to track down any sort of official document that shows that he was in Milwaukee at the time of this murder.
There's a week you don't know where he was, and that could be critical in this case.
Right, and there were no victims in Milwaukee during that time.
This vacant, fenced-off lot here near 25th and State is where Dahmer's apartment building once stood, and it's where police found remains of several of the victims. Now this filmmaker and detective are hoping somebody here in Milwaukee might be able to place Dahmer in Los Angeles at the time of the murder.
There's one more reason police believe Dahmer might have gone to the West Coast.
His mother lived in Fresno, which is about 4 hours away from where this murder happened.
The similarities to Dahmer's MO are striking.
People usually don't dismember their victims And obviously, the rest of Billy's body has never been found.
Fresno police did find a severed foot. According to this Milwaukee police report, Dahmer denied that too. The report reads, quote, Jeffrey Dahmer states he has never been in California, specifically Fresno, and denies any involvement in this offense. Without high-definition security cameras, digital footprints, and DNA testing, Lamberti says they're relying on old-fashioned information.
You never know what that little piece of information might be that might help put this all together.
And you want closure, and you don't get it.
What would it mean to you and your family to find out what happened and who did it?
For my personal, it would mean a lot to know what happened to my brother.
In Milwaukee, Hillary Mintz, WISN 12 News.
We asked Milwaukee police about this new lead. They would not comment on the case.
Dahmer himself was killed by a fellow prisoner in 1994. If you have any information that could help, we've posted a link in the 12 News app to submit a tip.